Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to tell you about inguinal hernias. So basically what are inguinal hernias? In these hernias there will be protrusion of the abdominal cavity contents through the inguinal canal. So the inguinal canal is having two openings, one is deep inguinal ring and another is superficial inguinal ring. So in between these two is inguinal canal. So whenever any abdominal content, or you can say any abdominal organ part, will be protruding through this inguinal canal and it will be extending from deep inguinal ring to the superficial inguinal ring or maybe further beyond that, so that is known as inguinal hernias. So now we have to see about the anatomical, or you can say the main anatomical boundaries of the inguinal canal, so that we can understand it quite clearly that what is happening in case of inguinal hernias. So if this is the inguinal canal and this is the deep inguinal ring and this is the superficial inguinal ring, so what, and the anterior wall will be covered by external oblique aponeurosis and internal oblique muscles. So external oblique aponeurosis and internal oblique muscles will be covering the anterior wall. That means the wall which will be in the front. So the posterior wall will be formed by the transverse fascia and the conjoint tendon. So the posterior wall, the wall behind the inguinal canal, will be formed by these two structures. The superficial wall, or you can say the roof, will be formed by internal oblique muscles and transverse abdominis muscle. So they will be forming the superficial, or you can say superior wall or the roof of the inguinal canal. Inferior wall will be formed by inguinal ligament. So the inguinal ligament will be forming the inferior wall, while inlet will be formed by the internal foramen. This will, we can say, the inlet, or from where it will be entering, and outlet will be the external foramen. So the contents of the inguinal canal varies from male to female. For example, in male the contents of the inguinal canal will be spermatic cord, and in female the contents will be round ligament of the uterus. So now we will see about the types of the inguinal hernias. So basically there are two types. We can divide it into two types, or you can say two classification we have done here. One is by genesis and another is by mechanism of development. So in case of the genesis, it can be congenital or acquired, and by mechanism of development it will be direct, indirect and sliding hernias. So what we have to remember here, that in congenital, indirect, inguinoscrotal and sliding hernias will be there, while acquired will be direct, indirect, inguinoscrotal and sliding. One important point you have to remember from here is that direct hernias are never congenital. So in congenital and acquired, mostly all of the hernias are same, except the direct hernias will be acquired, they cannot be congenital. So now we will see the two main hernias, or you can say two main types, and what is the pathogenesis, or you can say how they are forming. So in case of first, we will see the indirect hernias. So in case of the indirect hernias, if this will be the deep inguinal ring, or you can say inlet, and this will be the superficial inguinal ring or the outlet. So in this case, if this is the, you can say, protruding part of any abdominal content or any structure present in the abdomen, for example small intestine, omentum, so they can protrude through these two rings, so through the inguinal canal. So in case of indirect, we have to remember one important point, that it is this inferior epigastric artery is present medially, or you can say the hernial sac is present laterally to the inferior epigastric artery, as it is present laterally to the inferior epigastric artery. So in case of indirect hernia, the hernial contents will be present laterally. So further it can be divided into three forms, you can say. In case of indirect hernia, they can be canal form, cord form and inguinoscrotal form. So what are these form? Canal form, for example, if any small intestine part will protrude through this ring and it will reach up till this superficial inguinal ring, then we can say it is canal form, as it is not coming out of that ring. So up till here it will be canal form. Cord form will be when it will come out of that superficial inguinal ring and it will cover half of the scrotum. So that will be the chord form, while inguinoscrotal form is that in which it will cover the full inguinal canal and it will cover the full scrotum or testis. So that is known as inguinoscrotal type. So as you can see here clearly, it is another diagram in an explained manner. If this is the inferior epigastric artery, this is the peritoneum, this is the deep inguinal ring, this is the superficial inguinal ring. So if this is a small intestine loop, it will be coming out through both of the rings, and it will be lateral to the inferior epigastric artery, and also it passes in the front of spermatic cord. So it will pass in front of the, this is the spermatic cord and its content. So spermatic, it will pass in front of the spermatic cord. Now if we will see in direct hernia, so what is happening in the direct hernia? In direct hernia, if this is I'll explain you from this diagram. So if this is the deep inguinal ring and this is the superficial inguinal ring, so the contents will be, you can say, they will enter through the posterior wall of the inguinal canal. So posterior wall of the inguinal canal they will be entering, and through Hazelback triangle, this is an important triangle, I'll tell you about it later. So they will protrude through this and they will be coming out behind the, or you can say behind the spermatic cord. They will be covering the superficial, or you can say they will be crossing the superficial inguinal ring behind the spermatic cord. So this is the main difference. Like we have to check the localization of the inferior epigastric artery. If inferior epigastric artery in this, it will be present in case of medially, in contrast to this hernial sac, it is laterally, but according to this inferior epigastric artery, the hernial sac is present medial. So that's the main difference between these two hernias, that in case of indirect hernias, the hernia is present lateral to the inferior epigastric artery, while in case of direct hernias, the hernial sac is present medial to the inferior epigastric artery. So now the Hazelback triangle. So Hazelback triangle is basically just a triangle from which the direct hernial sac will be you can say crossing over. So it got four boundaries. For example, it's medially, it has lateral border of rectus abdominis muscle. In case of laterally side, its lateral side will be covered by inferior epigastric vessels. As you can see here, laterally here will be inferior epigastric vessels. Below will be medial part of the inguinal ligament. So medial part of the inguinal ligament will be below this Hazelback triangle, and floor will be formed by the transverse fascia. So these are the main important boundaries that you have to remember for Hazelback triangles. Now we will see if now we have seen the diagrammatic representation, we will see the chart, or you can say the written form. So here the sac enters the inguinal canal through the deep inguinal ring. So I have told you it will enter through the deep inguinal ring, lateral to the inferior epigastric artery. It will be laterally present to the inferior epigastric artery, passes through the inguinal canal in front of spermatic cord. So it passes through the inguinal canal in front of spermatic cord, in front of spermatic cord. So it will be coming like this, in front of spermatic cord. May or may not come out, as I have told you about these forms. It may not come out, it may come out, and it descends to scrotum. If it comes out, it descends to scrotum. So in indirect hernia, it is the most common you can say form of all types of hernias. Now in case of direct hernias, the sac enter through the posterior wall of the inguinal canal. So it will be entering from here, the posterior wall of the inguinal canal, medial to the inferior epigastric artery. It will be present medially to the inferior epigastric artery, medially through the Hazelback triangle, through this triangle, and behind the spermatic cord. So spermatic cord will be present in front of it, so behind the spermatic cord, and it mostly occurs in case of elderly patient. So these are the main, you can say, difference between indirect and direct hernia, etiogenesis and pathology. So now we will see about the clinical manifestations. Like when the patient will come, what will be the clinical manifestations of that patient? So first of all, oval or round shaped protrusion will be present in the groin or scrotum area. This is the first characteristic sign we have to see. Then episodic dull pain will be present in scrotum, or the pain will be locally only. So local pain will be present, only that part in which hernia is protruding, only the hernial sac is irritating only those nerve fibers, so it will be locally, the pain will be locally, and it is episodic dull pain. Episodic means it will occur whenever there is increase in abdominal tension or increase in intra-abdominal pressure. So in only that cases the pain will be appearing. So in this case the protrusion may disappear while lying, as during lying there is decrease in the intra-abdominal pressure, so it may disappears, and it may appear again in case of standing, walking, coughing, or in any sort of abdominal distension. For example, in case of any exercises, stretching exercises, in case of any gym workout you are doing, so in that cases they will again reappear. So patient feel quite uncomfortable while walking in these cases. There will be also nausea and constipation, and dysuria if it is sliding hernia, and in this case the bladder will be involved, so that will be causing dysuria also, that means painful or difficulty in urination. Also there is characteristic positive cuff push sign. Positive cuff push sign, so what is this sign? So let me tell you, if my this hand is you can say hernia, if this finger is the hernial sac, so if I will be palpating through this hand on this part, then I ask the patient to cuff. If he cuffs, then there will be increase in intra-abdominal tension, that will lead to the hernial sac to protrude outside. So when it protrude outside, my the fingers will be feeling that protrusion, so this is known as cuff push sign. So the hernial sac will be pushing my fingers, so this is known as cuff push sign. So these are the main clinical manifestation. Now about the diagnosis. So in diagnosis, hernial visceral examination is done, visual examination is done in lying and standing position, so it is the main characteristic diagnosis. Hernial palpation, as I told you, cuff push sign we can see, consistency we can see of hernial sac, painful if it is painful or not, intestinal murmur we can hear. In case of percussion, we can hear tympanic or dull sound. So if it is tympanic, then it will, the hernial sac will most probably be having bowel loops. If it is dull, then omentum will be present in case of hernial contents. While finger examination, I have told you earlier, cuff push sign will be positive, and there is also a transillumination test in which there is transmission of light through the swelling. So there will be transmission of light through the swelling, and it will be positive in case of inguinoscrotal hernia because the skin will be very much thinned out, so the transillumination test will be positive. So these are the main clinical manifestation generally that we will see. Now I told you about direct indirect hernia, so let's see more detail about both of these hernias, because in most of the examination they are very much asked frequently. So direct hernia is only acquired. I told you on the first page of my notes that here it is only acquired, direct, it will not come in congenital, while it can be indirect, can be congenital or acquired. It is most commonly in older age, so this is also we have discussed earlier, and it is most commonly in younger age, and also it is the most common type of hernia that is present. It is bilateral, so it can be present on both the sides, while indirect hernia is usually unilateral, only one side is involved. There is round shaped protrusion only by the external ring of the inguinal canal. So in direct hernia, I have told you through this diagram, the protrusion will be through the only external ring of the inguinal canal. So this will be the external ring, the protrusion will be only through this part, while in case of this indirect hernia, the protrusion will be across the oblique course along the inguinal canal, so it will be in the whole inguinal canal. So from the you can say internal ring and the external ring, it will be having in both the rings. So rarely it will be inguinoscrotal. So in this case inguinoscrotal hernia rarely occurs, while in this case in the indirect hernias inguinoscrotal usually occurs quite commonly. And it appears on standing and reaches full size immediately. So in case of direct hernia, it reaches full size immediately. Like when the patient will stand, there will be sudden increase in the intra-abdominal pressure, and it will reach, the hernial sac will reach its size immediately. While in case of indirect, it does not reach its full size immediately. So this is another an important point, and it reduces on lying immediately. So vice versa, as if it's standing it is increasing, then lying it will be immediately reduced in case of direct, while it does not reduces immediately in case of indirect. Also the neck of the sac is wide in case of direct hernias. So the neck of the sac, the hernial sac neck will be wide, while in case of indirect the neck of the sac will be narrowed. And also in direct hernias there will be weakened posterior wall. As I have told you earlier that the posterior wall is having this transverse fascia. Transverse fascia will be present on the posterior wall and conjoint tendon, so that will be weakened. And dilated external ring of the inguinal canal, because it is coming out mainly through the external ring, so there will be dilation of the external ring only. While in case of indirect hernia, weakened anterior wall, that is external oblique aponeurosis, and internal oblique muscle will be weakened, and dilated both the rings, internal and external ring, because it is coming through the whole course of the inguinal canal. And also in this, cuffing push sign is against the internal ring, that I told that is quite obvious because it is coming only out from the external ring. And in this, the cuffing push sign is against the internal foramen, so it is mainly against the internal foramen. While next difference is, this is the most important, you can say, difference between both of these. That is, in case of direct hernias, it is medial to the inferior epigastric vessels. So medial, I have shown you in this, I will show you in this diagram. It is medial, it is present medially to the inferior epigastric vessel. While in case of lateral hernias, it is present in the case of indirect hernias, it is present lateral, it is present laterally to the inferior epigastric vessels. So this is the main characteristic difference between these two hernias. And also in this, hernial sac is outside the spermatic cord layer, or you can say it is behind the spermatic cord layers. So spermatic cord layers will be present in front of this hernial sac, while in case of indirect hernias it is in front of spermatic cord layers. That means spermatic cord layer is behind this hernial sac. So next difference is, sliding is common in this direct hernias, the sliding is quite common, while in case of indirect hernias sliding is not so common. Also strangulation, in this case it is quite uncommon, while in case of indirect the strangulation is quite commonly seen. So these are the main differences that you have to remember for indirect and direct hernias. And that's it for this video. In the next video we will be discussing about sliding hernias and diagnosis and treatments for inguinal hernias. Thank you.